So usually every video I feel the almost imponderable need to introduce myself, which is really inadequate and somewhat unneeded. But if you really needed, my name is Alex. Not that this would contribute anything to the topic, but now that you're hopefully satisfied, let's continue. Now, in a bit of change of pace from my last commentary, which was kind of thoughtful and more thought-provoking and opinionated, this is just going to be back to my regular routine that I tend to guide on my channel, and I'm just going to be talking about a lighthearted story that I kind of sat here pondering about, and I felt the need to share it with you guys because a lot of the messages that I receive, and by the way, I get an insane amount of thread messages a day on my channel, but that's unrelated. Anyway, so a lot of these messages, basically what they consist of is, hey, I like this girl. How can I ask her out? And unfortunately, the topic is way too bland for me to base an entire commentary off of because, I don't know, human and natural selection and being with a female is something that should kind of come and set forth in your life. But I do understand a lot of people have problems with this. And so I kind of wanted to talk about my first real girlfriend. And so I think you'd be rather surprised to hear that Bulgarian Alex actually got his first girlfriend a year after moving to the United States. It's actually a pretty funny story, though, because when I moved to the United States, I went to elementary school literally almost 2 weeks after the event of us moving. And it was very, very difficult for me to fit in because not only was I not, familiar with any culture that they practice in the United States, but also I was very bad at English, I quickly picked up on the language, and it's funny, though, because I pride myself on this, and this is true, by the way. I still hold the record in my elementary school for getting out of this ESOL. It was called an ESOL program. I forget what it stands for. But for getting out of this program the fastest out of anybody, in this school. And what this program consisted of is basically it replaced your English class, and you go to this special room, and they basically teach you how to speak English. And it was kind of funny because it wasn't really like a giant class. It was me and this Korean girl and this Hispanic little kid. And anyway, so the fairly intelligent young child that I was, I managed to pass the course in less than a year and get out of it and kind of be a normal kid. But thing is, I had kind of spent a lot of this time where I had not really been familiar with the language and with the culture. I hadn't really been social, and so I didn't have many friends. I was generally the kind of kid that sat at the lunch table sort of alone, eating his shish kebabs and taking vodka shots and kind of saying, "Hello, my name Alex. Where's the toilet?" And so, like I said, I was a little bit awkward. I generally tend to be sort of talkative and a goofball in my commentaries, but I don't know. That's just not really me in everyday life. And so basically, I was this lonely fifth grader kind of awkwardly sitting at the end of the table and minding his own business. And this one girl came up to me and started talking to me. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Alex, we don't want to hear another one of your homosexual life stories. And no, she was actually female, believe it or not. And she wasn't like fat or extremely stupid. She was actually the really nice all-American girl, and she always wear these like dresses that her mom like knitted for her or something, and she always wore like 2 ponytails, and she was actually this very pretty girl, and I always kind of liked her. But something strange that I found about her, at least at that time, that her name was June, like the month, and I don't know, that's not really related, but let's continue. So, like I mentioned, she was kind of the smart girl because, well, she was in the gifted program, and I never really thought of her as someone that I would end up talking to or liking. I always kind of felt that she was hot. But then again, there she was sitting on the lunch table and talking to me. And I felt that she kind of felt sorry, because she was the kind of girl that would always walk to someone that's lonely and talk to them and make them feel a little bit better. And so, as in any case, I kind of felt that, that was obviously the case. And I didn't really think much of it. So we started having this conversation. She asked me a lot about Bulgaria. And that conversation, that lunch, was actually one of my fondest memories of my lower school experience. And I don't know, over time, I guess I kind of started to like her. And something that kind of sealed it off was one day we were walking to like PE or something. And she came up and said, "Hi, Alex," and then held my hand. And I guess that was kind of one of my best memories that I'll always remember throughout the entire school experience that I've had thus far. And this compares nothing to what I've ever experienced before, because as a little Bulgarian child, kids don't really date around that age, especially lower school. And kids shouldn't really date, is what I'm trying to say. But generally in Europe or other parts of the world, kids don't really start dating per se unless they were in like high school or something, at like my current age right now. And the funny part about this very complicated relationship was that we actually never went on an actual date. The whole relationship was based around us holding hands and talking in the hallways and in class sometimes. And my parents never knew about it either, which was kind of awkward. But as I mentioned previously, I was kind of that kid that really doesn't hang out with people during the school day. And me hanging around this girl was really, as cheap as this sounds, she was my golden ticket into popularity, sort of. Not really. But she did always encourage me to make better friends, and around her I picked up a lot of good companions and a lot of better friends that, stayed with me for the next like 2 or 3 years. And all in all, she was just a great girl. And actually, 2 of my greatest memories of her and our lower school experiences were that when I came to America, a lot of the sports that kids played here were not really practical to me, and therefore I felt no need to play them or take part in them. And whenever we would have team captains, I would always be like the last one to get picked. And one day we were kind of in recess, minding our own business, and she got picked to be team captain, and she picked me first. And I don't know why, but she kind of made me feel special in that sort of way that I've never really felt before. I've always felt that whenever my mother and father beat me senselessly, it was because they cared, and it turns out that wasn't so. And anyway, one more recollection that I have of her is that one day, well, not one day, her mom always usually baked these cookies, and she gave them to June for lunch. And she was kind of tired of them because apparently she baked them like every single day, and she started giving them to me one day. And I tasted them, and they honestly tasted like, not that I've tasted this, but the icing on it tasted like horse semen, and the cookie itself felt like you were chewing the heel of a very old shoe. And out of respect for her and for her mother, I felt, no need to mention anything on that very lunch. But as time moved on and as a month passed of me eating these dick garbage cookies every single day, and whilst also keeping in mind that my vocabulary was strongly increasing each and every day, I had learned this new word, and the word was disgusting. And I decided to use my new profound knowledge into a very nice, quiet lunch with June. And as you can imagine, that didn't really turn out that well. She gave me her cookies as normal, and I tasted them. I took a bite, looked at her, and said, "Wow, that was disgusting." And even though she knew those cookies tasted revolting, she was still sort of upset and I guess hurt by the fact that I was sort of bad-mouthing her mother's awful cooking. That last stupid sentence that came out of my mouth was kind of the start of the end for me and for our relationship. And we didn't really like solve the problem. We just kind of stopped talking, like generally lower schoolers would be expected to do. And I have not actually seen her in 5 years or something like that. And so I don't know. I am thinking about when I get back to the United States, stalking her on Facebook, and perhaps working on a part 2 to this video, but we'll see how that works out. One person that I actually wanted to shout out is a guy called the Jersey Man 01. Now, I actually did a dual commentary with this guy about 3 months ago, and he's actually a very cool dude. And we weren't actually able to do a com on my channel because of our living situations and what we had going on at the time with YouTube. But I felt I'd repaid him the favor and give him a shout out right now. And I really hope you guys go check him out because I personally subscribe to him and I watch his videos. And what's kind of cool about him is that he interacts with his subscribers a lot. You know, he'll take clips sometimes, and he's generally a very cool guy. So if you'd like to, go check out his channel and possibly subscribe. His link will be in the description. And so that's pretty much it. If for some moral reasons you'd like to be a nice person and come boost my self-esteem and follow me on Twitter, that would be also much appreciated. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.